Let's start our today's session after lunch. Before the start of the program, I would like to say thanks to Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan and Aaoifi for organizing this wonderful conference. Thank you very much. So in the panel, we have very good representation from Pakistan and also from Turkey. So I would like to request Dr. Mehmet, Director, International Relations, Bursa, Istanbul, to start, because you are our foreign guest, so we would like to know what is happening in Turkey. So over to you. If you would like to share your presentation, we have it. You want us to put it over there?
Yes, we can put it on the screen.
Can we have Dr.
But I will sit here. I can sit here, and the presentation can turn on the screen, if you don't mind, Doctor. Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Among good friends, I really feel like we are with good friends, close friends. It's really a pleasure to be here with you all. Today, I will be basically talking about with two hats. My role in Borsa Istanbul is I'm a Director of International Relations. But as Borsa Istanbul, we are also tasked with running the secretariat of OIC Exchanges Forum, which is basically a platform that brings together, let me make this a little bit closer like this. Can you hear me well? Okay. The role of Borsa Istanbul in this platform is to bring together exchanges of the OIC region, Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And we are talking about 57 countries in the OIC region. And basically, we are trying to bring together exchanges from all these countries to find some areas of mutual collaboration and what we can do together. So these meetings have been running since 2005, and some colleagues, actually in this room, Brother Hassan Raza has attended to a few of those meetings from Pakistan Stock Exchange. So we are bringing together these exchanges to work on mutually beneficial projects. Today, I'm going to be basically talking about one such project that we were able to develop under this OIC Exchanges Forum. What we did, working together with other exchanges in the region, we were able to establish an index in 2012 together with S&P. So in 2012, S&P started calculating an index, including about 19 countries from the OIC region and 50 blue chip companies from these 19 countries. So it is therefore called, this index was called S&P OIC Sharia 50 Index. And it's a benchmark index. So the idea was that it will basically provide a good indicator for the performance of these companies in the whole region. So that was an initial idea, and there was very much excitement when this product was first launched. It was the first solid product of the forum. But then quickly we started thinking about, okay, we have this index now, but what about actually making it investable, developing a product based on this index so that people can actually invest in these companies of the OIC region. And finally, after several years of talking to people, talking to different asset managers, etc., including BlackRocks, Society Generals and others, finally, a Turkish asset management company, Ziraat Portföy, which is actually the largest asset management company in Turkey, government-owned asset management company, basically, they volunteered to develop a fund based on this index. And again, we started another series of, how we can do this because it's uncharted territory. We are talking about multiple countries. Operation of this fund is not easy. So eventually, this fund was established last August, and it went to public in August 2022, including 7 countries, 7 largest economies of the region, and about 30 plus blue chip companies. This fund is basically now operational in Turkey, and it is made public in the Tefas platform. We have this Tefas platform in Turkey, which is basically an online platform where you can find all the mutual funds online. You can compare their performances. You can actually make an investment after making. So this fund is now part of that platform. So Turkish investors are able to make their investments in this. Now, I'm here to talk about this because we are looking for international investors for this fund. And the more international it becomes, the more useful and beneficial it will be for the whole OIC region. Basically, you are able to make, at one go, you are able to make investment in 7 different countries through this fund. It can be used as a diversification instrument in portfolios. In Turkey, we are seeing some serious investor interest because it's also USD based. So it's kind of providing some kind of hedge function also because of the currency fluctuations against Turkish lira, etc. That could be similar to in some other countries as well. So basically, this is essentially the product that we were able to develop through the OIC Exchanges Forum. Maybe we can skip a few slides so I can show the performance a little bit. I already talked about these parts. Just one thing about this part I can say is that the companies in this index and the fund, they need to have on average about $1 million daily average trading value. That's to be included in this one. So we are talking about big blue chip companies. Maybe we can go a few slides. Next one. Okay, these are, on the left side, you see the whole country is included in the index, and on the right side, you see the picture of the countries that are currently invested by the fund. These are 7 countries. You can see some of the major companies on the left box. Top 10 is available online. The rest cannot be seen due to agreement with S&P. But the top 10 companies are these, you can see. We can go to the next one. Yes, come back to the previous one, please. Yes, here you can see the performance of the index. Actually, the light green is the S&P Sharia 50 fund in Turkey. And you can see it is the second best performing fund. Compared to the BIST 100, BIST 30 indices, it has performed better than BIST 100 and BIST 30 indices since the beginning of the year, basically. And go to the next, this one. And you can see also the performance since the beginning of the year in this graph as well. By nature, it's not a very volatile or very high performance type of index because it is very diversified. It's kind of like a hedge or diversification instrument. So you don't want a lot of volatility here. But you still see some performance here. So I think I can stop here. And if you are interested in how to make investment, I will be happy to, please reach out to me, and I will be happy to put you in touch with colleagues in Ziraat Bank, and they will be able to tell how to go about making an investment for international investors. Yes, if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet, for the wonderful presentation in which you mentioned if somebody is interested in investment, so they should contact you. Because we have started from you, so now I would like to request Mr. Sharik Naseem, Head Product Development, CDC, Pakistan. You are working currently on EWR. Is it possible you can share with the wider audience that what is meant by EWR?
Thank you, Dr. Saib. Basically, electronic warehouse receipt is a new concept in Pakistan. CDC being one of the leading institutions working on this project for around now 4 years. And the concept is very simple, that we want to link the agriculture economy of Pakistan with the financial world. We believe that Pakistan is an agriculture-based country, and if we could link the agriculture sector of Pakistan with the financial sector, so it will be a very big win for the entire country. The project at the moment is at a pilot stage through, first of all, Pakistan's first ever collateral management company with the name of Nemat Collateral Management Company Limited. It's the Pakistan's first agri-collateral management company limited. What they do is that they accredit certain silos or certain warehouse all across Pakistan, and the depositors or farmers, they can go to that particular warehouse or silo and they can deposit their wheat or maize or whatever the agriculture product they have. So they just deposit their agriculture product in that particular warehouse or in the silo, and they got an electronic warehouse receipt against them. Once they have that electronic warehouse receipt, it is declared as a negotiable instrument by SECP, and that particular instrument is now can be pledged with the bank. They can take financing against that particular instrument, and they can also trade it at the Pakistan Mercantile Exchange also. And they can also trade it offline also. If they don't want to trade on the exchange, they can trade it on a bilateral basis also, over-the-counter basis also. So it's a platform provided by the Nemat Collateral Management Company Limited, where the farmers or the depositors or the aggregator of the product can go and they deposit their product. And against the product, they'll be issued an instrument which is called as electronic warehouse receipt. And that financial instrument is now negotiable. They can trade that instrument. They can get bank financing against that instrument.
Thank you so much, Sharik Saab. I will come back to you with a new question, but right now I want to ask Hassan Saab, who is Chief Product Officer, Pakistan Stock Exchange. Hassan, how is Pakistan Stock Exchange doing when it comes to Sharia-compliant product? What are the products available on PSX? Can you please share?
Thank you very much. Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. Now, Islamic finance or Sharia compliance is one of the strategic pillars of Pakistan Stock Exchange. And the work on Pakistan Stock Exchange from Sharia perspective has been there for decades. So starting from 80s, the Mudarbas were listed. And in 2000s, we get Islamic Bank, Mizan Islamic Bank listed. And the journey continues. Now, equities are inherently considered as Sharia compliant given the risk reward profile. However, there was a development done in 2008 where these equities were tested against certain criteria to see if any activity that's happening on these companies is against the Sharia principles. So 2008, there was an index launched on exchange, KMI All Index, as a partnership between Pakistan Stock Exchange and Al Mizan Investment. And likewise, Farooq Saab have also mentioned this timeline, so I don't want to make it a repetitive exercise. If I talk about the asset classes, I think I'll take the opportunity to see what asset classes are there on stock exchange. So equities are there. If we talk about fixed income, so we have Sukuks listed, TFCs listed. And talking about funds, we have an ETF, which is Sharia compliant ETF, one ETF. We're working with other AMCs to have more Sharia compliant ETFs on Pakistan Stock Exchange. And REIT, Islamic REITs are there, Mudarbas are there. And in terms of the number of companies that we are looking at, 50% of the companies are almost Sharia compliant. But the market cap of these companies is about 67%. These numbers have been repeated this morning, so I won't repeat them. So basically, all of these products are there. For the distinguished guests, I would request that, given the lack of time, PSX has done a number of webinars and activities, and there's actually one guide done by Islamic and PSX about Sharia. All of this information is available on Pakistan Stock Exchange website and media outlets. So I would strongly encourage that, whenever you have time and would like to explore further on that front, so the data and media is already available. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Last but not least, the panel member. First question from you, Tariq Naseem Saab, who really, put up this show for all of us. So Tariq Saab, what do you see the role of technology when you talk about the Islamic financial institutions under the purview of Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan? Can you please share your thoughts?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dr. Iram. Actually, we know that fintech is bringing speed and efficiency in delivery of financial products and services throughout the world. But in my view, it has two dimensions. First, it is helping us to expand outreach of our product, our institutions, and our markets throughout the country. We are inventing new product model distribution channels whereby the regulated sectors are reaching each and every corner of the country and serving the financial needs of the citizens of the Pakistan. For example, if we see in last 2 years, we introduced enabling regulatory framework for digital lending, and that at once changed the micro and nano lending space in Pakistan. And we see a number of active participants, both service providers and a large number of users using these platforms to fulfill their microfinancing needs. Similarly, when we see other opportunities created by fintech that include, as Brother Farooq mentioned in earlier conversation, that we can have equity crowdfunding platforms or P2P lending platforms. In fact, SECP enabled P2P lending platforms whereby financing resources can be channelized from the providers of fund to the users of fund. But as a regulator, the other side of financial technology is that when it is bringing speed and efficiency in delivery of financial services, at the same time, it is posing challenge for us as a regulator to regulate this space effectively. Because in normal circumstances, a regulator used to work 9 to 5 on working days. But when delivery of financial services is being made through fintech channels that are available 24/7, regulators also need to enhance its capability and resources to monitor, regulate, and address issues that are coming up through these innovative ideas, products, and platforms, I guess. So at the same time, fintech is a very good medium to expand outreach, to innovate, to provide new channels for distribution of financial services and products. And at the same time, as a regulator, I feel more responsible that I need to work more hard, particularly to monitor and supervise the activities that are being taken place through fintech channels.
Thank you so much, Tariq Naseem Saab. Now coming back to Dr. Mehmet. Dr. Mehmet, you are coming from Turkey, and right now we are discussing about the financial market issues in Pakistan. Can you share some of the challenges faced by your institution in Turkey and how you overcome those challenges?
Yes, thank you. I think for us capital market shareholders, the biggest challenge is always the financial literacy. So the reach and the depth of the market is always #1 priority. So the more you develop the investor base, the more developed the capital market becomes. So that has been a challenge for us as well in Turkey for a number of years. But we have seen an interesting phenomenon in the last 3-4 years after the COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen an explosion of retail investors rushing to the exchange for making investments. For more than 20-25 years since the establishment of Borsa Istanbul as this new establishment in 1985, we have seen only about 1.2 million active accounts. But in the last 4 years, we have now seen that this number has gone up to almost 5 million active accounts, so more than tripled. So this has been a very interesting phenomenon for us, and I think now the challenge remains, okay, you have all these investors, all these retail investors now, but most of them still do not have financial literacy. So they are making investments, but they are not making their investments in the right way or in the right investment mentality. Turkish investors are typically short-term, particularly the retail investors. They have a short-term mentality, which in the end is not very beneficial for them. So we are trying to, through online educational programs, reach out programs with universities. We put out a lot of videos, to social media and other platforms to basically increase financial literacy among retail investors. And at the same time, of course, we try to attract institutional and international investors. That's another side of the business, and probably more important on the buy side. And on the sell side, we have also seen an important initiative on inviting companies to do IPOs in Borsa Istanbul. And on that, we have also seen in the last 3 years a huge increase. In 2021, we have seen about 50 IPOs, which in previous years remained about 8, 10, around those figures. And in the last 3 years, we have seen more than 100 IPOs. So because of this retail interest, because of the savings are now coming into the Borsa, companies are also now coming because they are able to access to those funds. So I think bringing these two pieces together really works. And now we have to work on deepening the market even more going forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet. Just to share that in SECP, we do have Jama Punji, knowledge sharing session that we conduct for the institution and general public at large. My next question is from Mr. Sharik. Sharik Sahab, can you just share about some of the innovative products that you may like to design or maybe in pipeline when you talk about EWR? So how you can innovate more products?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sahib. I'm fortunate enough to be on the committee formed by SECP for the promotion of Islamic finance with you as the chairperson and my friend Tariq as one of the members, and we have other worthy members also on the committee. On the same committee, we are discussing and try to come up with new novel ideas, new products. And one of the products which we are discussing on the committee at the moment is to come up with the commodity murabaha product based on not only on the agri commodities, but the other unconventional commodities also. So the idea is that we can make a pool of different commodities like the agriculture commodity, which are already in a formalized sector through the agri-collateral management company concept. And taking another step, we could also take the informal sector like the steel or the cement, the commodities which are not in the formal sector at present, we can bring them to the formal sector and we can make a pool out of the commodities, and that pools that can be collected by the depositors, farmers, and the processors also. Because in Pakistan, there are a number of processors for wheat, for flour, for maize, who have a lot of quantity of commodities with them, like cement, like steel. They have that commodity with them for their use over the time in a year. So what we can offer them that through making a pool of all these commodities, we can leverage on that particular pool and come up with sukuks for that, against that pool of commodities. And not only sukuks, but we can also come up with some liquidity management products for the Islamic banks. We can offer kind of a sukuk for the liquidity management to the Islamic banks, which they can resell in the market. This is an initial concept which we are working. This is initial level concept. This is only a sketch. We are working with some very learned bankers on that. One I see in front of myself, Mr. Faisal Sheikh, who is helping us a lot in this particular product. And we are hopeful. Farhan Usmani, one of our committee members, is also helping us on this product. And we are hopeful that, inshallah, very soon we'll come up with a paper on this particular product, that how both formal sector commodity and an informal sector commodities can be put together, and we can make a pool out of it, and we can issue sukuks and other liquidity management products for the banks.
Thank you so much, Sharik sir. Hassan Raza, next question from you. So how do you see the role of PSX, the future, when you talk about Sharia compliance? What PSX intends to do in order to ensure Sharia compliance and to have more innovative products? Can you please share your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam. It's quite a wide question, so I'll try to narrow it down with a certain perspective. Now, what makes an asset or an investment as a Sharia compliance? So there is an investment itself, and there is a process. So when we talk about investments, the money goes in, and it goes without saying that the source that comes into the Sharia compliant equities should also be a halal source. And when it gets out, it gets redeemed. So it is also invested and spent on a halal thing. So the whole cycle is halal. So from investment perspective, there are 5 tests or filters that are done other than the actual business that the company is engaged in. So if the business itself is not legitimate from Sharia perspective, so the rest of the tests don't mean anything. So one of those tests is the funding, the loans, which are interest-based. If a company is getting a certain percent is being applied, presently 37%, it should be less than or equal to. The second is the investments that the company has made. If the investments are made in instruments or areas that are not Sharia compliant, then it should not be more than 34% or a certain percent is there. Likewise is 5% of the income and value of the non-current assets as compared to the current assets. So these are few tests that are done. Now, fortunately, in Pakistan, a federal Sharia court has taken this step of riba-free banking economy, and as it proceeds, so at present, we have 50% companies that are Sharia compliant. So as it proceeds, then by default, we'll be having a lot of companies as Sharia compliant by default, by having a system that we have. So on the process side, the trading that happens presently on T+2 basis, it's sort of a debatable matter as to the compliance of those. So we're also working with Islamic on that to address this process part. Now, with respect to what are the innovative ideas and things, I think we already have, from Pakistani economy perspective, we already have the instruments, equities, fixed income, funds, but we need to have, for example, commodities or some other products, for example, derivatives. So we are working on conventional derivatives, but we need to have an alternate for Sharia. Now we'll talk about this if time allows more. And one important thing I would like to highlight in the presence of distinguished guests is to whatever we do, we need to keep in mind the core key purpose of capital markets. It's basically the capital formation. And if we look at one of the statistics that's being looked at, is from market cap versus the GDP ratio. If you look at Pakistan, it's sitting around 10%. And so how much of the economy is, getting sort of capital through capital markets? So then there are other channels, some are direct channels, banking channels. If you look at India's example, it's about 100%, almost 100% of the market cap, and India economy size is also much larger. Looking at the US, this ratio is around 200%. So we need to, bring more investors, more issuers. So those are the things, and whatever we do, I think having Sharia on board, it will certainly help us that, in that cause. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan, for very good answer, detailed answer. Now I would like to request Tariq Naseem Saab. Tariq Saab, in SECP, we have launched diagnostic report recently. And when you talk about the diagnostic report and relate with the Islamic financial industry, specifically Mudarba. So Mudarba, Pakistan is the only country having Mudarba. But when you talk about the challenges and issues of Mudarba, there are so many challenges. So how, from SECP's perspective, you are going to take care of the challenges faced by Mudarba sector?
Thank you very much. As a registrar Mudarba, I engaged the industry association on multiple occasions, and the collective outcome of that consultation was there are three key challenges that we need to look into and prioritize them for necessary actions. One is legislation. We need to update Mudarba law, and as Chairman SECP mentioned in the morning that our Mudarba Amendment Bill is already with the Parliament and is expected to be promulgated in August 2023. So with the promulgation of the new law or updated law, required flexibility in the primary law will be there, and we will be able to do much with the Mudarba sector, and Mudarba player can also realign their business model accordingly. Secondly, there are two kinds of Mudarbas in Pakistan. One that operate as a financial institution and engage in normal lending operations like any ordinary lending institution. And other kind of Mudarba that law allow us is the trading Mudarbas that are not purely financial institution but act like a trade house. Unfortunately, currently we have majority of the Mudarbas choose to be a financial institution, and in this process they want to compete with the Islamic banking institutions, for example. And all we know is that the cost of Islamic banking institutions is much lower than the Mudarbas. They cannot compete with those institutions under that model. Therefore, they need to rethink their business model, and some of the Mudarbas are already doing that. For example, we are allowed a flotation of new Mudarba, the Burj Clean Energy Mudarba, and the business model is such that it is financing the production of electricity on commercial and residential places. So electricity can be sold, or electricity producing equipments can be rented out to the tenants of interested tenant. That can be a commercial business or an individual household. So this is a new model that we are seeing in the Mudarba sector, and I guess going forward, only such type of business models can sustain that are not competing with Islamic banking institutions product, because they will not be able to sustain that any longer. Secondly, the innovation side or fintech side is, I think, absolutely missing from the Mudarba sector. And they are operating like an institutions of 1990s or early 2000. Financial technology enabled different kind of distribution channels, different kind of products, different kind of mindset, and different kind of clientele. So if Mudarba choose to leverage on the technology, I think they have a suitable universe of products, services, and clienteles that can be targeted. But if they choose to operate like a financial institutions that they are currently, I don't think the circumstances, the market can allow them to sustain for a reasonable period of time. So therefore, as a registrar, Mudarba and SCCP, our effort are to engage the stakeholders, to engage the Mudarba managers, and to encourage them to venture into new business model, which are more like trade houses, not a financial institutions. And those business model are those operational models are such that where they are leveraging more on technology and using more diversified channels for distribution of their financial products.
Thank you so much, Tariq Saab. With this, I would like to thank our participants who are watching us virtually. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. Some of the questions I received on my mobile as well, people who are watching us online. So thank you very much for your presence in the hall and also online. Now, last question from the panel, and I will start from Tariq Saab once again. Tariq Saab, another point that is Waqf. Unfortunately, we have not focused on Waqf. And Waqf falls under the, you see, umbrella of Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. So can you please share how SCCP is going to work or devise some more strategies or regulations for the promotion of Waqf in Pakistan?
Dr. Iram, I think theoretically you are correct that Waqf fall within the regulatory ambit of SCCP, but legally it is not correct. Because as per the laws of Pakistan, institution of Waqf is subject to regulation by provincial authorities. And practically, Waqf is being administered at provincial level, even at district level. So for all the practical reason, I think Waqf is not being regulated or administered as a financial institution or any institution that is linked with the financial market. What we need is to see the examples quoted by Professor Asmadi in the morning and the brothers from the Turkey that Waqf as a Waqf part of the asset that is closely resembled with the asset management side of a regulated sector can be an area where we can work together to introduce some kind of regulatory enabling framework that allow institution of Waqf to be created in cash, and then such pool of funds in cash can be managed by professional asset managers like mutual fund managers, like Mudarba fund managers. So in that way, we can link the institution of Waqf with the regulated sectors that we regulate in Pakistan. And I think that is the way forward for actually revival of the Waqf institution within the economic and financial systems of a Muslim country.
Thank you so much, Tariq Saab. Next question from Hassan. Hassan, any concluding remarks from the point of view of what you expect PSX to do for the Sharia compliant products, or what you feel is the biggest challenge? So any concluding remarks?
I think we should keep this broader picture of capital markets in mind in devising the solutions from Sharia perspective. Now, we have areas that are, we have tried as well, and we're learning from other countries and in other Islamic countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, Middle East, Turkey, is how we can address and provide alternates for example, futures, for derivatives, for options. Another important issue that is there, and it's practical issue, is for liquidity. Providing liquidity, there is one organic liquidity that comes through buying and selling, and the other is through market makers. Now, the system, making system that is Sharia-based or Sharia-compliant, given the structure our market has, where many of the players do not want to take exposure on their own capital, so that becomes a challenge. So there are other products as well that I think we need to look at and provide that option to the investor. But more so, given the time, I would like to request all of the distinguished Sharia experts and those who are listening online is to promote something under the Sharia banner. And maybe I'm not aware of this, but we need to promote something to foster the culture, inculcate the Islamic true value culture. For example, truthfulness. We need to be fair, modesty, and we have unity, being transparent. All of these values, and in CFA we have a code of ethics, and there are standards and things where people go by that fiduciary duty. They go by that because of a commitment to a profession or a designation or a body. But for us being Muslims, we already, without going through any of such commitments, we are committed to be honest. Now, one of the challenges that you might have faced, we go and do some awareness session and we get this question, and it comes about the trust on capital markets, and it's a practical issue where investors or people, they have sort of this mistrust or lack of trust, for a better word. So this one, we need to, I think, take a campaign under the banner of Sharia, and where we promote these ethical values and maybe have some standards where people commit, although we don't need another commitment after being Muslim. So, and then the last thing is everyone has spoken about is awareness. The general awareness is lacking, but Sharia is on top of that. So we need to maybe have a joint effort among the stakeholders along with SCCP. And we are very thankful to Tariq Saab on this action plan and the study that they have done to maybe make a coherent and joint effort on that direction as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hassan. And I would like to repeat that in the morning, His Excellency Mr. Ishaq mentioned the same thing, that you have Islamic financial institutions, but you need to be very competitive. So don't charge high. I mean, this is just one of the value that you should be at par when you are offering the products and their prices. So moving forward, Sharik Saab, if you would like to share concluding remarks.
Yeah, I think I just want to address two areas. One is that, as my brother from Turkey said, that one of the challenges we also have here in Pakistan is related to our investor base. And if we compare it with Turkey, our investor base is too small. And I think the appetite for the Islamic products is huge. So if we focus more on Sharia-compliant products, I think we can tap more and more investors here in Pakistan also. So we need to come up with new innovative Sharia-based products in order to increase our investor base, one. Second is that in Pakistan, another phenomena which is different from other countries, that we have an informal economy which is very huge. So we need to bring that informal economy into the formal sector. The thing I mentioned, the concept on which we are working on the committee, that how we can do the informal commodities and linking the agriculture commodities to the financial sector will also add very much value for Pakistan economy.
Thank you so much, Sharik Saab. Brother Dr. Mehmet, so any three important points that you want to suggest to Pakistan in order to expand their investor base and how to have more customers? What are your suggestions?
Well, this is a difficult one. It's not an easy task for sure. In our case, I mentioned that COVID-19 helps. And I think probably there was a similar situation, I'm guessing, in Pakistan as well, because people were sitting at home, they didn't have a chance to go out. But also the low interest environment in Turkey also helped. Because in a low interest environment, exchanges become more attractive investment venues. So definitely more financial literacy, more reaching out, through social media, because with the younger generation, we see there is a lot more activity now in social media. So you need to reach out to this new generation of investors and invite them in, educate them in. And we now have a new phenomenon, the crypto assets, as you know. And all these young generation are familiar with this new way of investment. But it's also an advantage for conventional exchanges like ourselves, because now this new generation has become, introduced already to this investment attitude, investment thinking, although not maybe through the right asset, but if we can bring them in to the right assets and continue being active on the social media, be it on the regulators. This is the same for the regulators as well. Also exchanges, being more active and catching the new generation will be, I think, very important. And I think the other thing that I would like to say is the cooperation is very important. Partnerships are very important. Activities and events such as this one, this excellent conference. I'd like to thank to all of you who have made this possible, and thanks for inviting us to this conference. Activities such as this one, promoting partnerships between, for instance, Borsa Istanbul, Pakistan Stock Exchange, capital market regulators of Turkey and Pakistan. Through these kind of partnerships, we will be able to go beyond just our borders and go beyond our limitations and reach out to do more together. So I invite more of such partnerships. OIC Exchanges Forum is just an example of this. So more active participation in such partnership platforms will be my suggestion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehmet. I'm glad that Mr. Farooq is here, who is heading PSX. So in future, we can have more collaboration between Pakistan Stock Exchange and, of course, with Bursa Istanbul and all the exchanges over there. Now, last concluding remarks from very dear Brother Tariq Naseem Saab, if you would like to say a few words.
Yes, I just want to reiterate what Chairman says, that SCCP is fully committed for the cause of Islamic finance. We already started this journey by conducting a comprehensive diagnostic review, and now we are in the process of development of a 3-year strategic roadmap. And we hope that through this strategic roadmap, we'll focusing those areas that needs priority, that are more needed and that are more effective. So through this strategic roadmap, we'll inshallah achieve much of the desired actions that require to be taken in the next 2 to 3 years. But at the same time, we are open for new ideas. We are open for industry, academia, or otherwise practitioner suggestions. And we are very much approachable through our offices and our committees. So if you have any suggestions, any ideas for development and promotion of Islamic finance within the regulatory ambit of SCCP, you find us very receptive and proactive in that regard. So I will like to invite you to share your thoughts with us, keep sharing with us your ideas and your suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tariq Naseem Saab. So on behalf of all the panelists, just 4 points. First one, we have to live with the true values of Islam. This is what's said by Mr. Hassan, that we have to share the value system of Islam. Though we are practitioners, but we have to show by example. We have to lead by example. Then secondly, said by Mr. Sharik, that we need to innovate more products. We need to have innovative ideas, and we need to have more products in the industry. Dr. Mehmet mentioned about awareness. And Mr. Tariq Naseem mentioned about collaboration, cooperation. So basically, awareness, collaboration, and cooperation, innovative products, and having the faith on Islamic financial system is the key to success. With this, thank you very much. A round of applause for all the panelists, and congratulations to SCCP and Aaoifi for organizing this conference. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. M. Sabah and our esteemed panelists for such a crisp, well-balanced and enlightening discussion. May I please invite Mr. Umar Mustafa Ansari, the Secretary General of Aaoifi, to present our panelists with mementos. To Mr. Tariq Naseem. Mr. Sharik Naseem, Head of Product Development, CDC. Dr. Mehmet Aydojmu, Director International Relations, Bursa Istanbul. Lastly, Mr. Hassan Raza, Chief Product Officer, PSX. Please stay on the stage for a group photo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, respected Dr. Iram Sabah, for conducting a powerful session. I think there was a lot to cover. And we equally had, we had a very good presence in this room, and we actually had a very good presence in the other two rooms as well. The attendance was really good. Although they are a bit distant from each other in terms of where the breakout sessions are, but unfortunately, that's the best we could manage. And thankfully, the attendance has been quite good. In fact, the chairman of Securities and Exchange Commission is attending one of the furthest breakout session, which is quite motivating for us. So I would like to thank everyone for the last breakout session. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, moving towards towards the end of the day, but we have about about 2 sessions between now and the next session. So I hope you have been enjoying it. First of all, can I have a show of hands in terms of who enjoyed the lunch? Few more, please. Thank you very much. I mean, how many enjoyed the sessions so far? Oh wow, the food, the sessions took over the food. That's quite motivating. Now, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think you may concur with me that it was indeed, a universe of knowledge and experience sharing that we had since this morning. There was a lot to cover in this one-day session. In fact, when we look at the agenda, when we shared with some of the stakeholders, they actually informed us that this is actually a 2-day session or a 2-day event, which we try to put together in one. But having an inaugural conference, we were not sure if we should have it for 2 days. But nevertheless, I think with the attendance that we had, with the encouragement that we received today, it has been a truly motivating for us, in fact, at Aaoifi and Islamic. And hopefully in the days to come, on an annual basis, we'll continue to hold such impactful conferences with a focus on Islamic capital markets. So I hope we will have Court and what it means for Islamic capital markets. We've heard a lot about Islamic banking industry, but with a focus on Islamic capital market is something that we are going to discuss. So it is going to be a concluding session, power session from my perspective, and I hope that when we conclude that session, you will enjoy that and it will truly be a powerful session. Before we proceed to the next session, may I request people who are sitting at the back to please come forward, so at least it's, we can see you. I mean, I can see people at the distance, but I can't really recognize people. So if you can please request everyone to come forward, it will be very helpful. So the next session, as I said, is a concluding session. I would like to request the Honorable Moderator and Session Chair to please join me on stage, Mr. Muhammad Luqman, CEO of NCCPL. I would like to request the session moderator of this particular room, Dr. Iram-Sabah, Chairperson of Securities and Exchange Commission on Islamic Finance at SCCP, please join us on the stage. Please. Can I also request Dr. Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, Director IBSC, Pakistan, to please join us as well on the stage. I did see him earlier. Yeah, Ahmed is here. Thank you, Ahmed. Can I also request Mr. Ashar Nazim. I know he's a bit distant away, so can the Secretariat team please fetch him from the room upstairs? Can I also request Dr. Muhammad Tahir Mansoori, Sharia Advisor, Askari Bank Limited, Pakistan, to please join us on the stage? Can I also request Sheikh Dr. Mufti Irshad Ahmad Ijaz, Chairman, Securities and Exchange Commission, Sharia Advisory Committee? Okay. So Luqman Sahab, I hand it over to you for this, inshallah, a very powerful session for you to take on. Inshallah, we are running behind time, so we will not have a coffee break.
So
please, please start, and then Brother Ashar will join, inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Commissioner SCCP, my friend Umar Ansari Sahab from AOIF, fellow delegates, fellow panel member, distinguished guest, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. It would be an honor for me and NCCPL to be part of this first international event, and it will be an honor for me to host and to discuss the outcome of the last 3 panel discussions from the scholars, which are the authority in the Islamic finance. With me, we are having Dr. Iram-Sabah, Chairman, SCCP Committee on Islamic Finance, Mr. Ahmed Siddiqui, Director, IBA-CEIF, and Head of Sharia Board of Mizan Bank, Mr. Ashar Nazim, CEO Aeon Digital FinTech. I think he will be joining shortly. And Mr. Muhammad Tahir Mansoori, Dr. Muhammad Tahir Mansoori, Sharia Advisor of the Askari Bank, and Dr. Mufti Irshad Ahmad Ijaz Saab, who is the Chairman SCCP Sharia Advisory Committee, as well as Chairman SBP Sharia Advisory Committee, and on many other committees beside Sharia Advisor of Bank Islami and many advisory boards of the banks. If I'll go in complete detail, so I apologize for my fellow panelists not to give the complete introduction of these scholars, as if I will go in the complete detail, it will take the whole session out of it. Thank you so much. Now I start with Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui. You have moderated the breakout session on the topic of Islamic collective investment scheme. And I would request you to share the key points arrived and discussed from the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Luqman, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone, once again. I was given the honor to moderate one of the important topic, that is collective investment schemes. And I just like to share the few takeaway points. uh, especially in the collective investment sphere, the mutual fund, the Islamic mutual fund industry has taken off, and the last year growth rate was approximately 34%. And now the scheme, the mutual fund, the Sharia compliant mutual fund is around 40% in terms of market share. And there's a long way to go. And now we are seeing the new type of funds like REITs are coming up. There are new regulations that have made the floating of new REITs possible. There are discussions, and there are actually the implementation of voluntary pension schemes, which now have a 60% market share in Sharia compliant space. And now the good news is that, as we discussed in the morning, the demand that provincial governments and the federal government should explore how they can shift their employees to the voluntary pension schemes. And the KPK government has taken significant steps, and they have done all the groundwork. So this is something positive news, and other governments can also follow the route for developing voluntary pension schemes. The framework is ready with SECP. It's now the matter of implementing the scheme. So something very positive development in this space. Another important point that we have discussed is the role that the venture capital, the private equity fund can play in the promotion of startup culture in Pakistan, Islamic fintech, and as well as SME. And one key point that was resonated in the discussion is that currently the financial institutions like Islamic banks, they are not going for equity or musharaka-based investment with those SMEs and startups. And probably they, because of their nature, they're offering debt-based solutions or rental-based solutions to those startups. However, if we promote the culture of angel investor who are willing to take certain equity risk at the startup level, at the idea level, that can be graduated, where a venture capital firm can come and they can further grow the idea to many folds, and then they can hand over it to a private equity fund. And then if the company is successful, they can eventually go for listing. So this route is a very interesting route. It's still not developed in Pakistan, but I think we must explore, especially for the benefit of SMEs, for the benefit of Islamic fintech. And the last thing that was very interesting to note, that the CDNS, the national saving schemes, which constitute approximately over 3 trillion rupees of deposit, equal to the size of almost Islamic banking, half of the size of the Islamic banking today. They have now started the Sharia compliant offering from today, and today it was the first day, and they have received a very positive response, and that will also lead to the shifting of the depositors and the savers to Sharia compliant schemes, which are now very attractive under the banner of national saving. So just to conclude, we have seen the potential is enormous. People are waiting for Sharia compliant investment avenues, especially in the era of where high policy rates are there, and probably the banks are not able to meet that return. The right avenue for an investor is to look to those collective investment schemes under the Sharia compliance space. So this is something that was coming up very strongly. And second thing, probably that's a cross-cutting theme. Still, the people are not aware, the general investor or the general account holder or general saver is not aware about the technicalities of a mutual fund, a REIT, a VPS, and something I think we must work together to create that basic ground level awareness, so the investor or the saver can be made aware of these options and they can benefit from it. So this is our key takeaways. Thank you, Mr. Luqman.
Thank you, Ahmed. Now I would like to ask the question from Dr. Iram Sabah. You have just moderated the breakout session on the topic of opportunities and the challenges for the development of the securities market. I would like to request you to share the key takeaways from the session, although I know already because I was sitting in front of you, but for the sake of all the participants which were not here, please share it again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Luqman, for asking this question. Yeah. Thank you so much for asking this question. So in the session, there was a very good debate actually when you talk about Islamic financial institution, and especially financial market when you talk about the securities market. People are not aware. So on one hand, we are talking about having the EWR and all the commodity murabaha and innovative products. But on the other hand, till today, people do ask that, is it really Islamic? And they don't understand. They don't have the basic financial knowledge. So we are talking about Sharia compliant products, but they don't have any understanding of the financial world at all. So in that case, how people are going to do some investment in the securities market? Now, coming back to the point what the participants said. So basically, one of the point was that we need to have awareness. And in the morning, very dear brother Umar Mustafa Ansari, he also mentioned about awareness, awareness, awareness. So we need to create more awareness regarding the financial innovation and financial products, and from the very young age. And I suggest from the, you see, from the nursery section or the primary section, we need to start talking about financial innovative products and how you can save. Now, the second point is basically how we can do collaboration. So we need to have collaboration in which the role of government, standard-setting bodies, and public-private partnerships should be very clear. They should come together in order to, take the Islamic saving or Islamic products to the next level. Formation of different committees from idea generation to the implementation, basically. So when you talk about whatever was said by Dr. Mehmet from the previous, session, that is basically we all have to come together. It's not an easy job in order to ensure the proper management of the financial sector. So we need to collaborate. We need to innovate. We need to follow the Sharia guidance in letter and spirit, whatever we are talking. So when we are saying that we are Islamic financial institution experts, so basically our behavior should be such that we are really, have faith on Sharia. So these are some of the comments, but having said that, the role of the regulatory authority is very instrumental in order to make sure that the financial sector is at large known for their products.
So just a subsequent supplement question to this is that right now we do not have any specific trading counter for the in the securities markets. So do you think that having a separate securities counter, Islamic Sharia compliant securities counter at the stock exchange will help to grow the capital markets?
Yes, definitely it will help. When you provide space to the investors, when you have more innovative product, when you give them ease of investment, people will come to the stock exchange. They will have more options and they will appreciate the efforts of Pakistan Stock Exchange. This shows that if in future we are going to have it, this shows that the PSX is mentally ready and they are implementing the right tools and platforms for the promotion of Islamic finance. So I strongly believe that we should have it. I know that there are some challenges, as discussed earlier, that Hassan was talking about. We need to have more alternatives. When you talk about futures, when you talk about options, we don't have the Islamic alternatives for that. But rather than having the alternative, what we can do is we can have better products of Islamic finance at stock exchange. So yeah, I am in the favor of the counter.
Okay, thank you. Just to update the audience and all of the fellow colleagues that we at NCCPL has already developed a Murahaba share financing product, which will obviously be helping once the counter is there, and the credit goes to one of the participants, Mufti Irshad Saab, who is part of that committee, heading that committee, and help us to form the regulations, and also Tariq Bhai to help to get that product approved. My next question is with Mr. Dr. Tahir Mansoori Saab, that as we all know that there is a judgment to implement the Sharia compliant product all over Pakistan by the Honorable Federal Sharia Court. And I would like to ask him that what do you think are the required necessity steps to get it, and what will be the way forward to achieve this? Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Dear participants, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are aware that last year, Federal Shariat Court issued its historic judgment on the prohibition of riba. The Federal Shariat Court declared around 22 commercial laws repugnant to Sharia and Islamic law. And it directed the government to make substitute legislations and transform the current financial and economic system to riba-free system by the end of 2027. What steps should be taken? And what does transformation mean? Transformation in the context of capital market. I will focus on the capital market and I will make certain suggestions. So it would be just suggestive narration. The first thing is that we need to develop dedicated primary laws for this sector. The existing laws have been primarily developed and designed in the conventional perspective in which Sharia has not been given any consideration. For example, the laws such as Securities Act 2015, Futures Market Act 2016, NCCPL regulation 2018, the Securities Leverage Market and Pledging Rule 2011, and also Public Debt Act 1944. All these laws contain many provisions which are not in conformity with the Sharia principles. For example, the Securities Act are the securities such as bonds, debts, commercial papers, preference shares, they are not Sharia compliant. In the same way, leverage market products, the NCCPL, obviously takes care of it. Leverage market products such as margin financing, margin trading, securities leverage, lending and borrowing products, these are all Sharia non-compliant according to Sharia standard, which is titled as the Sharia standard on bonds and the shares. According to Aaoifi, the securities or stocks cannot be borrowed or lent. They cannot be made the subject matter of loan. In the same way, the futures market and the future market products, and for example, the stock futures, whether they are deliverable or they are cash settled, they are Sharia non-compliant. Stock futures and forex futures or currency futures, they are also Sharia non-compliant. The deliverable commodity futures may be held permissible if they are based on wa'd or promise basis. But I skip the details because this is the subject matter of and domain of Tariq Naseem Saab, and copyrights of this subject are deserved in his name in Securities Exchange Commission. In the same way, so in this way, we observe that these laws, which I mentioned now, they contain a number of provisions which are repugnant to Sharia. Now, this is the responsibility of SECP to initiate the process of developing new laws, because it would be the process owner. It will undertake this task in coordination with the Ministry of Finance, with the Ministry of Law and Justice, and in consultation with the stakeholders in the industry. So it has to initiate this process. Muraba share financing, as it has been mentioned by Luqman Saab, this is a very good product and it is a good substitute for margin financing in margin trading, but unfortunately, it is still dormant and inactive. I don't know what is the reason. To me, it appears that the Islamic banks are least interested in providing patronage and cooperation to this product. It is still dormant and inactive. So I think that the Islamic banks should provide patronage to this product. Another thing is that my proposal is to Tariq Naseem Saab, I think that SEP, NCCPL as well as SECP should conduct a survey of the market and especially survey with the leverage market users, those who are using these leverage market, these products, and also the financiers, to know that why the users are hesitant in using this new product, why they are not using this product. So there should be a survey on it so that our finding would be research-based. So this is the thing. Sharia compliant counter you have mentioned just now. Sharia compliant counter was introduced, and it was approved in 2018. Also, it could not be established. I don't know that what is the reason for this. But I think that if Sharia compliant future is Sharia compliant stock, this counter, if it is established, the issue of day trading or intra-trading will also be solved because this is a Sharia non-compliant practice in the market. Another issue is a Sharia screening issue or Sharia screening criteria. I think that it should be revisited. According to the current criteria, a company is a Sharia compliant if its borrowing is, interest-based borrowing is up to 37% of the total assets. And its lending or interest-based investment is up to 37% of the total assets. Interest-based investment means that your investment in T-bills, in PIBs, in FIBs, in commercial papers, placement with conventional banks, and it means that you are Sharia compliant as long as you are up to 30%. When you cross this, it would be Sharia non-compliant. It means that this is a red line. हमारे आज का red lines बहुत सारी बनी हुई है ना, ठीक है जी, इसकी red line ये. So red line is 33%. I don't know that where has this criteria come from. International Fiqh Academy, which is a central interpretative authority, it has unanimously resolved that a company with interest-based borrowing and interest-based lending is a Sharia non-compliant company. The same is the ruling of the Majmu' al-Fiqh of Rabitatul Alam al-Islami. So I am saying that there is a consensus on this issue that these are Sharia non-compliant. But still, when I say that if the developers are the architects of this criteria, if they are satisfied, sorry. I'm saying that if the developers are designers of this criteria, if they are satisfied that this is a Sharia compliant criteria, then they should not hesitate in disclosing the Sharia basis, strong Sharia basis to the public. And so that the people could invest in these companies without any guilt and without any pring of conscience. लोगों को कहें कि जनाब 33% तक आप placement जो है कर सकते हैं इन companies में, no issue. But I am afraid in this way, yani you will win the business, but the Sharia will be defeated. बस उसका end result जो है, जो victim होगी वो Sharia होगी. My personal Bombay Stock Exchange में जो Islamic Index है, उसका criteria 25% है. ठीक है जी, 25% interest-based lending और interest-based borrowing. This is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, जिसमें हम बार-बार कहते हैं इस्लाम के नाम पे वजूद में, इस्लाम के नाम पे वजूद में, वहाँ पे जनाब हमारा 37% है. ठीक है जी, मैं इसकी और कोई भी नहीं देता, मुफ्तियान किराम के पास इसके बहुत सारे जो दलाइल मौजूद होंगे. But what I am saying that we should move to a strict criteria gradually. यानी मसलन हम ये कहें कि next year this criteria would be 25% lending and 25% borrowing. اگلے سال ہم یہ کہیں کہ اٹ وڈ بی یعنی 15%، اگلے سال یہاں تک کہ آپ اسے فیز آؤٹ کریں. بٹ آئی ایم افریڈ دیٹ if we insist on this narrative, we cannot build our case against conventional banks. ہم یہ نہیں کہہ سکیں گے کہ جی آپ ایک آدمی کو کہیں کنونشنل بینک میں تو آپ پیسے نہ رکھوائیں لیکن اس کمپنی میں انویسٹ کریں کہ جو کہ مطلب یہ کہ سودی بارونگ اور سودی لینڈنگ کرتی ہے. ٹھیک ہے، میرا خیال ہے کہ یہ سیلف کنٹراڈکشن ہے اینڈ وی کی ناٹ پلیڈ اوور کیس، اپنے کیس کو ہم پلیڈ نہیں کر سکیں گے. ٹھیک ہے جی، ادھر ادھر کی کر کے اور جناب ضرورت ہے وغیرہ 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 یہ ساری چیزیں. ایک تو جناب یہ ایشو ہے. دوسری چیز ہے وہ یہ کہ انٹیگریشن آف آبجیکٹیوز آف اسلامک فائنانس ان دی نیو فائنینشیل سسٹم as articulated by the Chairman Securities Exchange Commission while speaking in World Islamic Economic Forum 2022. He has very rightly identified 4 objectives. میں چاہتا ہوں کہ آپ اس پہ تھوڑی سی توجہ دیں. وہ یہ کہتے ہیں کہ Islamic finance should be a value-based finance. Value-based, value-neutral now. He has identified 4 objectives of Islamic finance اور وہ ہیں protection, circulation and augmentation of wealth in halal manner. Number 2, وہ کہتے ہیں کہ justice and fairness in the distribution of returns, کہ returns کی distribution میں you should be just. اور اس کے بعد تیسری چیز ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ enhancement of public well-being اور social well-being، کہ آپ جو social well-being جو کس حد تک جو کر رہے ہیں. اور نمبر 4 generation of real economic activity، کہ real economic activity جو ہے وہ کس حد تک اس میں ہو رہی ہے. I think that Islamic finance should be geared towards the realization of these ends. Otherwise اگر مطلب یہ ہے کہ if this is a value neutral، اس کے اندر کوئی ویلیوز نہیں ہے، صرف کانٹریکٹ میکینکس ہیں، تو nothing will change by the end of 2027. میں ایک لائٹر نوٹ پہ آپ کو بتاؤں، مارٹن لوتھر جو ہے وہ آپ کو پتہ ہے بڑے مشہور ریفارمسٹ جرمن، ان سے ایک جو ہے نا وہ شو میکر نے پوچھا، مطلب ایک کرسچن شو میکر اپروچ مارٹن لوتھر اینڈ آسک ہم دیٹ فادر ہاؤ کین آئی سرو گاڈ ان دی پروفیشن آف شو میکنگ، کہ شو میکنگ میں اللہ کی خدمت کیسے، عبادت کیسی کی جا سکتی. اس نے کہا میک اے گڈ شو اینڈ سیل ایٹ اے فیئر پرائز، کہ مطلب یہ ہے کہ ڈونٹ لوور دی کوالٹی، چیٹنگ نہ کرو، چیٹنگ نہ کرو. ٹھیک ہے جی، چیٹنگ نہ کرو. 2 نمبر جوتا نہ بناؤ، ایگزاربیٹنٹ پروفٹ جو چارج نہ کرو. ٹھیک ہے جی. ساتھ ہی وہ یہ کہتا ہے کہ اے کرسچن شو میکر ڈز ہز سروس ٹو گاڈ نٹ بائی پٹنگ لٹل کراسز آن دی، کہ مطلب کہ چھوٹے چھوٹے سلیب کے نشان بنائے اینڈ برینڈنگ اٹ ایز اے کرسچن شو. ٹھیک ہے جی. اگر if Islamic finance is not value oriented, we will not be different from a Christian shoe. ٹھیک ہے، ہم کرسچن شو بن جائیں گے. تھینک یو ویری مچ.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tahir Mansoori Saab, for such an enlightening note. And now I request Dr. Mufti Irshad Ahmed Ijaz Saab, the same thing, that what are the way forward for implementation of the Islamic finance by 2027 as per the judgment of the Sharia Court. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmadu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. As this point have been discussed since the morning, that although the decision of Federal Shariat Court and all the efforts for Islamization of economy, all these are generally focusing on elimination of interest from economy. But we all know that these are not only the problem of the economy, that to eliminate the riba. There are some other prohibitions. The implementation of these prohibitions in the system make the system Sharia compliant. So after this decision last year, some efforts are now underway. And among the efforts is establishment of the steering committee and subcommittees at the State Bank and Securities and Exchange Commission level. Now these committees are exploring the possible changes. One of the changes, as the respectable Dr. Tahir Mansoori Sahib has mentioned, there are requirement of some legal changes, because without having these legal changes, system cannot be improved. And there is a report that tells us about around 29 or more than 29 legal reforms or changes which are required. And I think this is a very big work that should be done to make the system compatible with Islamic requirement for implementation in whole system, whole financial system, ecosystem, not only the banking system, but the capital market as well. So the first thing is some legal requirements. And the second thing, revision of the practices of a capital market institution. And there are some non-banking financial institutions which are working in Islamic capital market, like insurance, fund management companies, real estate investment trust, stock exchange, and other companies. And also fall in the ambit of Islamic, some companies which are non-financial companies, but still they want to comply with Sharia, like the concept of Sharia-compliant companies, which are non-financial companies, non-banking, non-financial companies, still they want to become Sharia compliant. So this is another procedure for which Islamic has issued some guideline as well. For Islamization of the capital market, non-banking financial institution, there are many requirements. For example, there are some good Islamic funds. Also we need some Sharia guideline for brokerage houses. Still we do not have full Sharia compliant brokerage houses. Also some practices of stock exchange. At least there are three types of things for stock exchange that we focus on it. The first thing, the instruments that are sold in stock exchange, derivatives, future, forward. The second thing, the methods of trading which are common on stock exchange, shorting and ready future. And the third thing, the financing activities that are done on a stock exchange level, on broker level, or with the involvement of NCCPL, like as Luqman Sahib has mentioned. So these are some activities which require Sharia compliance and revision from Sharia compliance perspective. Also, there are some instruments which are issued under the law of capital market. For example, TFCs and for example, Sukuk. And also, we are discussing the topic of national saving as well, because national saving, although it does not fall in the ambit of its capital market and it has some different regulatory system, but obviously, this is a deposit generation from general public and investing in some areas. Recently, today national saving has started Islamic modes of financing as well, and they are accepting the deposit. So I think if you look at the judgment, it requires the transformation of whole system, not the banking system only. For the whole system, we obviously need to change the banking system, national saving, all the institutions that fall in the ambit of Islamic capital market. For this, we need to analyze the legal system, their practices, and what are possible alternates for them. Now there is a question, as Luqman Sahib said, how much time will be required? 27 is the target. See, if we look at the decision of Shariat Court does not want that you have to transform only in 5 years. But the Shariat Court basically they wants that from the inception, from the start of the case, if you look at the history of around 40 years back, 1993 or some years back, this battle is started in the court. First of all, this battle should not go in the court because we are Islamic country, and in Islamic country, we don't see that any battle goes to the court that sharab is permissible, liquor is permissible or not, adultery is permissible or not. So why this decision of riba is permissible or not is going to court? So this is the first mistake. But the court, Federal Shariat Court, keeping in view the past 40-year commitment, they set a target. Sometimes there is a criticism on the Shariat Court decision why they have set the target. Because the court do not set the target. But if we see the delays of what I should say, delaying tactics or whatever we call it, so that keeping in view all these 40-year history from 1993 till 2023, 40 years history, the court decided to set a timeline, 40-year, 30 years history, court decided to set a timeline, but it does not mean that if we are not successful in this timeline, the whole economy will become non-Sharia compliant or illegal or the things become stagnant, court must review. If any government present to the court the development, court may extend the timeline, may extend the target line from 2027 to maybe 2030 or 35. But all this can happen after the revision of the performance. If you look at the performance from 1980 or 1980 and 1990, we have moved after 2002 decision by Shariat Appellate Bench, and we introduced at the State Bank of Pakistan and Islamic some laws. But still, no legislation by the parliament is there. So there are some difficulties. So I think this is the first step, legal transformation, legal recommendation. And there are more than 6 committees, subcommittees, they are working from State Bank of Pakistan and Securities and Exchange Commission. They are preparing recommendation. And there are 3 types of legal changes. The first change, which require a lot of legal work. I mean, around 29 laws like banking companies ordinance and also State Bank law. This law will take some time to change. Second, those laws which provide equality, for example, in the tax and treatment of Islamic financial services. And the third law, which are enabling laws that enable some services for some powers for Securities and Exchange Commission, some provisions for Islamic services, and for example, some provisions for banking courts. So these 3 types of legal reforms, I think the first type of the legal reform, which are enabling law, can be done easily in 1 year. And the second type of, which provide, for example, equal level playing field for Islamic institutions, that can be, introduced in 2 or 3 years. Yes, those laws which pertain to banking companies, corporations, State Bank and other, it may take some time. So legal reforms, and after legal reform, developing the alternates, and also making the conducive environment available. I think these steps are very important steps. And lastly, and I especially congratulate Securities and Exchange Commission for arranging this international conference, which the title on the board says it is the first international conference on capital market in Pakistan, in Islamabad, especially in Pakistan. So I think these conferences help developing, number 1, exchange of the ideas, number 2, awareness, and number 3, acceptability. I think we should continue having these type of conferences in Islamabad, in Karachi, in whole Pakistan, in Lahore as well, so that the awareness and acceptability and also exchange of the ideas will be there, inshallah.
Thank you, Mufti Shah Saab. Thank you so much for such an elaborative way forward. Now, I would like to ask a question from Asher Nazim Saab. Asher, my question is that fintech is a buzzword. Technology-based solution based on brilliant ideas have transformed the financial landscape, and the phenomena is continuing to evolve and surprise us. What do you think? What is the relevance and importance of fintech for the development of the Islamic finance and the capital market in Pakistan? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. Very quickly, the future of Islamic capital markets lies in a digital refresh of their business models. And digital is a used and overused and abused word. So it's very important to understand what does it mean. The last thing it needs explanation is the tech part. The refresh of the business model will bring a paradigm shift in terms of how capital markets will move forward, and I'll talk about a few whys. Why should Islamic capital market institution be worried, very worried, if they are still operating the organizations of yesterday? There are 5, 6 disruptive forces which are changing your business for good. The first one being, and I'll give examples as well, is the commoditization of cost. What does that mean? What that means is, previously, if you're a big institution, if you've got a huge distribution footprint, what that meant is you are able to pick up customers at a much more economical cost than smaller institutions. Like now take the example of eKYC and digital onboarding. So the customer acquisition cost, that the arbitrage which was there between a big institution and a small institution is narrowing very quickly. So right now you do not need a huge physical, that's one example of how cost is being commoditized, and that arbitrage between small and big institution is evaporating, number one. Number two, profit pool relocation. What does that mean? One example, TransferWise or Wise, which is right now, any remittance, for example, that used to happen, NBFIs, banks used to be sitting on that float for 3-4 days and making money off it. Going forward, the likes of Wise and others are doing it at a fraction of a cost and very quickly. And that's, again, a refresh of the business model, and one needs to think why. I mean, this is not just about, stitching together a few pieces of IT and doing it. It's a business model refresh. They're using the concept of netting, which basically means at the end of the day, only the net amount leaves the shore in favor of the other country, right? I mean, whatever amount is, and that brings down complexity when it comes to operations and administration, right? That's one example. And there are many examples where profit pool, again, the shift between savings account to mutual funds, for example, is being made very, very frictionless. And Betterment and Wealthfront and a number of others are a prime example where customers are able to move their money very easily and without requirement of fresh eKYC, etc. So profit pool relocation, number two. Number three, platform ecosystem. What does that mean? An organization and BFI of yesterday used to produce all the product themselves, 100% prop, right? Going forward, the new model will be about API economy, which basically means you will have 20-30% of your own proprietary products, and you'll be connecting with others to actually bring a portfolio of products to your end customer. One must think, why did JP Morgan acquire one of the largest travel agencies in the world, right? I mean, why? Because they said, well, if I can serve my VVIP segments on all their holiday resorts and traveling, etc., in a seamless manner, then all the remaining business will come to me automatically. Think about that, the platform economy, right? I mean, API connectivity. And then very, very important, open finance, which is an expansion of open banking concept. And this is more defined in very simple terms. It's open up banking or open up finance. What does that mean? What that means is regulators are saying, here, ye 4-5 jo bade hain, they are monopolizing the market. They are becoming dinosaurs. They are not innovating fast enough. They're sitting on customer data and not using it in the manner it should be. And therefore, I'm going to open up banking and make it compulsory for the data to flow out in a consented, structured manner to all the other licensed fintechs that I'm going to bring to the market. Each one of them will bring their own use cases. And it can be, for example, a better price discovery when it comes to mortgages or credit cards or personal finance, etc., etc. Think about the implications. What that means is banks will have to give up, and this is anti-bank and anti-NBFIs, and in favor of customer-less innovation. That data is going to flow out, it's going to get aggregated. On top of it will be a lot more powerful analytics done, as a result of which, a lot more innovative solutions will be offered in the market, right? And one must take a pause and absorb the enormity of this new trend that's coming our way. And I'll give you an example of UK market. And 2018 was the first year when open banking, the first full year in UK, yeah, in 2018. And guess how many data calls were there, or API calls as we call it. The request for data was there in the first year when open banking was introduced. 60 million. 60 million API calls in year one. Fast forward 2022, how many API calls? 6 billion. Absorb this, internalize 6 billion. But more importantly, it only represented less than 5% user adoption. So imagine once it reaches the critical mass of 20%, the kind of seismic shift that it's going to bring our way, right? So open banking or open up banking, open finance is a major phenomenon, and we all need to understand what that means. And final point is what we call experience ownership. What does that mean? What that means is you have to resign to the idea that, product manufacturers and distributors, right? You'll have to choose, make a choice between what you will specialize in. And experience owners will have an upper hand, most likely, especially initially, right? And what does that mean? And what does that mean? A classic example of the dramatic change that's coming our way is Apple entering the banking space, deposit banking space. And who did it partner up with? No less than Goldman Sachs in the US, right? And Goldman Sachs agreeing to become the kitchen for Apple and let the credit go to Apple is a massive mindset shift at the board and the organization level. Think about it, the long-term implications. And guess how much, of course, Apple picked up in deposits in the first 4 days? 240,000 customers, $1 billion in deposits, right? And it's coming our way. So experience ownership, and these are each one of these points are very deep in terms of the business model refresh. And unfortunately, a lot of business plans that we see in the name of going digital are honestly more of the same, and that's not going to work. So the future of Islamic capital markets is in terms of capital market professionals, bankers, regulators, Sharia professionals, and technologists coming together to refresh this business model and say, yeah, what is the problem I'm solving?
Thank you, Asher. Thank you very much. So just to conclude the session, because of the paucity of the time, I would like to highlight the few points mentioned by the learned scholars. The system should be based on a fairness. It should be based on brotherhood, Islamic brotherhood, and it's not only reflect on the financial system, but on the other areas of the business as well. So it should be on a transparent manner, and as the Mufti Sahib mentioned, that we should start from somewhere. So we should start making the regulations, we should start making the change, and change is always difficult, but change is inevitable as well, as it is mentioned by Mr. Asher. So we need to reshape our businesses, and we need to change the thinking pattern of our businesses and to make them change, because that is happening all over the world. And if we would like to change the system as per the Islamic principles, we first bring the change in our mind and accept the change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Muhammad Luqman Saab, CEO of NCCPL, for moderating this very important session. There was a lot of things to cover indeed, and I'm sure you would agree that the panel, the moderators of the breakout sessions did their job fairly well. Topped it up with the ruling from the Sharia scholars on the role of Islamic capital markets. So maybe can I request a round of applause for everyone here, please? And that also confirms that everyone is morally and physically here. Thank you very much. So I would like to thank you very much for your kind support and for this panel discussion. May I request His Excellency, Mr. Aaoifi-Secp, Chairman, Securities and Exchange Commission, to please join us on the stage to present the token of appreciation to our speakers here. The first is to be presented to Dr. Muhammad Tahir Mansoori, Sharia Advisor, Askari Bank Limited. The next to be presented to Dr. Mufti Irshad Ahmad Ijaz, Chairman, Securities and Exchange Commission, Sharia Advisory Committee. The next to be presented to Mr. Asher Nazim, CEO of Aeon Digital, Bahrain. He's got a flight to catch, so thank you very much, Brother Asher, for joining us. The next memento to be presented to Dr. Iram Sabah, Director, IBS-CEF. And the next one to be presented to Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, Director, IBS-CEF. Please confirm we are all awake here. Last but not least, may I request His Excellency to present a memento to Mr. Muhammad Luqman, CEO of NCCPL, the moderator of this very important session. Thank you very much, fellow panelists, and thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us. We will have a concluding session. Perhaps a picture, a group picture can be there. And we thank you very much for your presence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us. Thank you. We are swiftly moving towards the end of the day. There are only literally two very small things and really very, very important things that we have between us and the end of the day today. So the next session is the launch of fourth cohort of Securities and Exchange Commission's regulatory sandbox dedicated to Islamic finance. There will be a short presentation which will be delivered by Ms. Amna Aziz. She will take us through on what is in it, in the fourth cohort of the regulatory sandbox. Please join us, Ms. Amna Aziz, and to present to us what is the opportunity there, what are the offering, and how can we benefit from this regulatory sandbox that SECP has issued guidelines on in 2019, and what is it for the entrepreneurs and the stakeholders alike.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I believe we've all had a long day, so I'll try to be quick and short with my presentation here. You will all agree that innovation comes hand in hand with change. Change is always a challenge for regulators. We are used to the way things are being done. Our rules and regulations have grown in response to past technologies and experiences. Figuring out whether and how to apply new ideas is a tall task. However, technology potential is too great, and the potential disruption it causes is even greater for us to bury our heads in sand. By means of a regulatory sandbox, SECP provides an environment superimposed to conduct testing of innovative products and solutions and business model under certain terms and conditions, a blight of the current regulatory framework. My name is Amna Aziz. I'm a director and convener of the Regulatory Sandbox Committee. We at SECP firmly believe that tech-enabled solutions for our regulated sectors have a potential to transform the way business is done. Fintechs can lead the way in creating depth in financial services market, thereby facilitating outreach and reaching the underserved consumers. SECP announced the opening of the fourth cohort of its regulatory sandbox in the beginning of this month. The application window has now been extended to 15th June 2023. There's been an added focus at SECP on Sharia-compliant financial services, and the same is reflected in cohort 4 of the sandbox too. The cohort has two segments, one each for the Islamic finance and the other for the conventional finance. Next, please. In the Islamic finance segment, we are inviting innovators to test Sharia-compliant models and products and business solutions relating to crowdsourced finance, micro and nano lending, new takaful models and products, sukuk fractionalization, digital intermediations and intermediaries, liquidity management solutions. Next. Whereas in conventional finance, our focus is robo-advisory, AI-based automated fund management, asset fractionalization, and single-window lending platforms. Next. Before going any further, this slide briefly explains what a regulatory sandbox is. Although with such enlightened audience, I'm sure many of you do have a certain idea how it works. Simply stating, a regulatory sandbox is a zone for testing of new ideas in a live environment with regulatory permission. More often than not, regulatory space for these products, solutions, or business model is not clear. Tests are limited in both in terms of time and scope. Next. However, an approval to operate in the regulatory sandbox is by no means a permanent license or a free pass to operate without regulatory oversight or supervision. It should not be in any way be considered as a place for attracting new customers. Prior to initiating the regulatory sandbox of SECP, a web search regarding sandboxes operating around the world was carried out. Our study revealed that mostly sandboxes are run either by the securities regulators or the central banks individually or jointly. SECP's regulatory sandbox was the first such venture in Pakistan and still is Pakistan's only regulatory sandbox. The purpose of the sandbox can broadly be categorized as innovation promotion or policy promotion. SECP's sandbox is innovation-focused. By design, sandboxes accept applications on a continuous basis or they can run on a cohort basis. SECP's sandbox is managed on a cohort basis, wherein application windows opened once a year and qualifying innovators undertake testing for a period of 6 to 9 months. Lastly, globally, sandboxes are either theme-based or general purpose. SECP runs a thematic sandbox. Themes of each cohort is announced at the time of the opening of that particular cohort. Sandboxes can benefit all stakeholders in the financial services market. These benefits are encompassed in the objectives laid out while setting up the program. For innovators, startups, and companies, it represents a safe space to innovate, removes ambiguities concerning regulatory framework, reduces time and cost of getting innovative idea to the market, helps in assessing viability of an innovative product to be launched on a full scale. For a regulator, it increases the understanding and enhances its capacity to facilitate and regulate range of new fintech innovations, test existing regulatory framework against new technologies and business models, determine a conducive regulatory environment for innovation. For end consumer, it provides easier and varied modes of access to financial services and identifies better consumer safeguards that can be put in place. SECP introduced the regulatory sandbox guidelines in 2019. These guidelines are available at the SECP's website. The guidelines facilitate participation in the sandbox. They cover in detail of how and who can apply, what is the procedure for submitting applications in the sandbox program, what can be tested, criteria on which applications are going to be assessed to qualify for testing, various stages of the cohort, and potential terms and conditions that can be imposed as a prerequisite of testing. So who can apply? Anyone can apply to participate in the regulatory sandbox, be it any appropriate person or an entity. A startup, whether registered or a fintech, or a company registered with SECP or anywhere else in the world. Next. SECP's regulatory sandbox invites innovators to test in all sectors within its regulatory domain, be it the CAFL or insurance, asset management, both conventional and Sharia compliant, non-banking lending sector, and the capital market. This is, of course, a non-exhaustive list of the categories in which innovation is being welcomed. Next. You can apply in the regulatory sandbox at the email address sandbox@secp.gov.pk. Right now, the application window for cohort 4 is open. The major requirements for filing an application are listed here. The guidelines provide further details and explanations on these requirements, and you're always welcome to send us an email at this address if any further clarifications are required. Next. To make the entire process transparent, and the guidelines provide basic ingredients of the preliminary and detailed evaluation criteria. First and foremost is the genuineness of innovation. Introduction of a new idea or a use case of an existing idea to the local market are both considered genuine. Then how are consumers being benefited? It is desirable that identifiable direct or indirect benefits to the consumer are listed in the application. How does it serve the cause of financial inclusion and access to financial services of market should also be clearly mentioned. Testing readiness, on the other hand, is multidimensional. It covers availability of technological, human, and financial resources, and having an execution plan. Lastly, but as importantly, is the exit plan. clear intent, and method to scale up the innovation or amicably wind up an essential part of the application too. Next. As mentioned earlier, the SSB's sandbox by design runs on a cohort basis. A particular cohort from the opening of the application window to the closure, that is submission of report by participants, spans more or less over a year. The application window opens for almost 4 to 6 weeks, usually in the first half of the calendar year. Preliminary and detailed evaluation is completed within 4 and 6 weeks respectively. Incubation of around 8 weeks is allowed to the selected innovators. Testing spans over another 24 to 36 weeks. And lastly, the testing innovators submit a report within 4 weeks of the close of the tests. Although testing is done applied the regulatory framework, however, certain limitations and conditions are and can be imposed at the time of approval to test to mitigate risk and protect consumers. These include limit on the number and type of customers, limits on transaction or volume of business. Other conditions include having a customer safeguard plan, obtaining informed consent from the customers, having grievance handling mechanism, having data protection, information security, and threat mitigation plans, ensuring solutions related to Islamic financial services are consistent with the prevailing Sharia standards. So what sort of facilitation can be expected from SCCP while in the sandbox? The relevant sector specialist from within the SCCP is the primary contact point from testing innovators. If required, queries and requests of innovators are forwarded to RSP committee through these contact points. Next. So what is expected from the testing participant? Once in testing phase, which includes both incubation and testing time, the participant is required to provide monthly reports to assess their progress. A format of the monthly reports is provided to each innovator. These reports especially focus on the impediments being faced by them. Similarly, at the end of the test, innovator is required to file completion report, which details the overall results and statistics as a comparative analysis of the defined objective vis-a-vis the actual results. This is the sandbox journey so far. The first cohort was announced in February 2020. The 6 participants tested. The tests have been complete and results have been shared through a position paper that's available on Commission's website. Second cohort was announced in April 2021. And here again, 6 participants tested. With the exception of 1, the tests are complete and the results will be shared soon. Cohort 3 were opened in April 2022. 8 participants are testing in this cohort and the tests are ongoing. And now we're accepting application in the 4th cohort. These are some of the solutions and business models and products that have been tested so far. These include digital P2P lending platforms, mutual fund distribution platforms, robo-advisory solutions, digital AMC solution, livestock fund, equity crowdfunding platform, asset fractionalization models, digital and micro-only takaful solutions, digital insurance, brokerage insurance models, and parametric and telematic insurance models. Results of the first cohort provided a direction to SCCP with respect to adoption of tested financial products, providing their regulatory framework. SCCP introduced regulatory reforms by amending NBFC regulations to provide comprehensive enabling framework for P2P lending, issued guidelines to mutual funds to encourage use of fintech for distribution and advisory purposes, enacted regulatory framework to issue license and regulate micro and digital-only insurance and takaful operators. Next. In these next slides, I'll be providing examples and types of extent and opportunities available across the sectors of the financial services market. SCCP has introduced digital-only brokers. Along with that, we've also issued guidelines for Sharia-compliant trading at PSX. So by combining these two framework, a digital-only broker can, with the help of a software, be just a digital-only Sharia-compliant broker and test such solution in the sandbox. These are certain figures. These are the figures of the asset management industry in Pakistan. A huge potential of collaboration with fintechs as digital intermediaries to provide robo-advisory and AI-based fund management solutions exist here as well. And lastly, lending. Pakistan has a huge informal lending sector with approximately 20 million borrowers and an estimated loan size of 798 billion. Majority of these are conventional loans and most of them are undocumented. Loan sharks and pawnbrokers charge exuberant interest rate. These loan deals normally translate into lifetime bonded labor in case of brick-kiln industries. Physical violent recovery measures are common here. There's absolutely no oversight or recourse available to the borrowers. So we see opportunities here for single-window lending platforms, both Sharia-compliant and conventional ones, central information portal for credit scoring and consumer behavior analysis, agriculture financing platform, and a portal for housing finance. And just to end, just a reminder that application window for the cohort 4 is still open. Any person desirous, any person having a genuine idea can apply, and they can expect to start testing by November this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amna Aziz, for the presentation on the launch of 4th cohort of SECP, the regulatory sandbox, dedicated to Islamic finance. We hope that through these efforts of SECP, more innovative products will be launched for the development of Islamic capital markets in particular, inshallah. Without taking any further time, we are, ladies and gentlemen, moving towards the closing session of the day. I see a lot of calmness in the room. Is it because of lunch? Or is it because the tea is, you're looking forward to the tea? Can I have a show of hands of how many people enjoyed the discussions today? Wow. Okay, excellent discussions. Thank you very much. I mean, all of that is, I mean, I think all the applauses and, thanks is to you because you're the guys who have been sharing all the stuff. So thank you very much for, perhaps a round of applause for everyone who have traveled far and wide to join us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have moved toward the closing session of the day here today. I, for one, have certainly enjoyed the stimulating discussions that we had, the thought-provoking ideas that have been shared, the regulatory discussions that we had, the global developments that we heard about from industry stakeholders, from infrastructure bodies, from regulatory organizations, from the stock exchanges, from the infrastructure organizations of the stock exchange or the securities market. I think we have had a lot of discussions today. And we do hope that through these discussions, we will develop on, which will further help us in the development of Islamic capital markets, not only for Pakistan, for the global industry. I mean, we are here catering not only for the Pakistan market, of course, that is our first instance, but the idea is to develop the Islamic capital market for the global industry. We do hope that in the years to follow, through these initiatives, we will be able to do that. So to formally conclude the day, I would like to have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Bilal Rasool, Executive Director at Securities and Exchange Commission, who has been a great supporter of Islamic finance, the growth of Islamic finance, to formally deliver his word of thanks for everyone here.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله صدق الله العظيم. Honorable Chairman, SECP, Honorable Dr. Bello, honorable distinguished guests, participants, Assalamu alaikum. The good thing about speaking last is you can say whatever you want and no one's listening. So, but I'm going to be very, very brief. At the conclusion of this very landmark conference, I would just like to say a couple of things and then you guys are off. Firstly, on behalf of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan and Aaoifi, I thank all the distinguished guests, participants, and sponsors in making this conference a huge success. From a very powerful start in the morning to the panel discussions and closed-door sessions attended by the leading scholars and experts of Islamic finance, it has been an exemplary takeoff for the Aaoifi-Secp collaboration and relationship. I'm just going to sum up very, very briefly on the message that was intended here today. When we speak of being quote-unquote Sharia compliant, what is it that we actually mean? The real essence is that a Sharia compliant entity is one which strives to abide and adhere to the Aaoifi standards as completely and faithfully as it can. The Aaoifi standards serve as the bedrock of Islamic finance and the gauge to Sharia compliance. It is for the regulators to ensure the adoption of the standards. While the speed with which entities are pledging to become Sharia compliant is encouraging, and we've heard that all day today, we must make it a priority to adopt all the Sharia standards without haste. The Aaoifi standards are a phenomenal compilation by the leading Islamic scholars of the world. They lay the foundations and norms of conducting business and enterprise in an Islamic manner. They stand as sacrosanct guidelines based on the Quran and Sunnah. Aaoifi and Secp may just have entered into an MOU today, but the magnanimous support already provided by the Secretary General of Aaoifi, Brother Umar Mustafa Ansari, over the past few years deserves honorable mention. I would like to acknowledge his contribution and support. I would also like to express my utmost respect and admiration for him. At the end, I pay tribute once again to late Faiz Nasir, Assistant Director, Islamic Finance Department at Secp. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He was an officer, a gentleman, a brother, as well as a soldier who passed away fighting the war against riba. May Allah bless his soul and grant him the highest level in the eternal abode. Ameen. Distinguished guest participants, brothers, sisters, Jazakallah khair. I wish you a safe journey to your homes. Until we meet again next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bilal Rasool, Executive Director, Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, just to repeat myself perhaps maybe, and maybe some of the words that Bilal Sahab has already shared, and it's about thanking all of you for being here with us. Thank you to all the financial sponsors who have extended their support, the Asian Development Bank, the CDC, who has been more than a sponsor, perhaps an organizer, Pakistan Stock Exchange, NCCPL, Al Mizan Investments, NBFI Mudarba, Bank Islami, MUFAP, Habib Metro, Park Qatar Group, Hilal Invest. I mean, thank you for all of you for generously contributing to the success of this conference. I would also like to thank all our speakers who have traveled far and wide, both locally and internationally, to join us for this very inaugural Aaoifi-Secp Islamic Capital Markets Conference. This conference would not have been possible without your support and with your commitment to come and join us in Pakistan during the current times. We do hope that we can entertain you in the future, and hopefully you will come back for other discussions, for other collaborations in the infrastructure institutions, locally. That is where the collaborative approach of institutions and individuals come together. That's where we benefit from the experiences of each other, both institution-wise as well as intellectually, leader-wise. So, I would like to thank you. Last but not least, I would also have to thank, our secretariat team at Islamic-Secp, at Aaoifi, at CDC, for their unwavering commitment to the cause of this conference. And I think it is the cause of this conference which has put us all together. And I, for one, have made very lovely friends here. I would like to in person thank, on behalf of all of you, perhaps maybe you can join me at for a round of applause to Mr. Tariq Naseem Saab, Head of Islamic Finance for Securities and Exchange Commission, his colleagues, of course, the late Faiz Nasir, whose father has joined us today, alhamdulillah, who has been an integral part of this conference. Brother Moed, I would like to thank him for making sure that the logistics are well taken care of. And all the people who have traveled far and wide, in particular the international, they would make sure that the logistics was well taken care of. From the minute we landed in Pakistan, at Islamabad airport, to the minute we reached the hotel. So thank you very much, Islamic-Secp, for being a lovely host to that. So, this is fantastic for me personally. I'd also like to thank other colleagues at Islamic-Secp, Malik Asif, Hafiz Muhammad Umar, Tosifur Rahman, Tokir Rahman. I think that without this support, it wouldn't have been possible. I would also like to take an opportunity to thank the CDC team. Brother Sharik, this conference would not have been possible without your support, without the support of Taha, Ufaq, and of course the CEO himself. I think this wouldn't have been possible. Last but not least, I would also like to thank the chairman of Aaoifi, His Excellency Sheikh Ibrahim bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, who spared his time to join us today. Of course, the Honorable Minister joined us as well today, so thank you very much for that. I would like to thank our leadership, the Secretary General of Aaoifi, for giving us the opportunity to organize this conference, supporting us from the day one, where the idea was formed. It was actually, I would like to repeat myself, it was very handful people about 8 months ago at a conference at IBSC, where Shoaib Saab, Umar Mustafa Ansari, Sarwat, Ahmad Ali Siddiqui, and a couple of other people were there, and we discussed the idea of this conference. From that day to today, I'm sure you would agree that this conference has been a success, and inshallah we would make sure that it happens on a regular basis in the years to follow. So please join me in thanking everyone who had made sure that this conference is a success. So maybe perhaps a round of applause, hopefully a last one for the day. Very quickly, we've got a last thing that we need to get out of the way, and I would like to request His Excellency Mr. Aaoifi-Secp to please join me on the stage. Can also request the Honorable Commissioner Saab to please also join us on the stage. May I request Dr. Bello Lawal Danbatta to please join us on the stage. Mr. Umar Mustafa Ansari to please join us on the stage. Can also request, please, Tariq Naseem Saab, please join us on the stage. We are just going to... Can also request GM Abbasi Saab to please join us on the stage. Maybe Mr. Farooq, please join us on the stage for a very quick thanking, maybe perhaps a memento distribution for the secretariat teams at Aaoifi, Islamic-Secp, and CDC. So I would like to call one by one, perhaps, maybe if you can please join me in coming very quickly to the stage. First of all, I would like to request Mr. Bilal Rasool, Secretary to the Commission and Policy Board, Securities and Exchange Commission, to please come on the stage to receive a memento. He would receive a memento from Dr. Bello Lawal Danbatta. We are joined by the father of late Mr. Faiz Nasir. May I request Mr. Nasir Ahmad Khayal, please join us on stage to receive the memento in remembrance of Brother Faiz, who has been an integral part of this conference. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with the patience, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate his ranks in Jannah, inshallah. Can I request Mr. Farhanul Haq Usmani, if you're in the room, please join us on the stage. Muhammad Suleiman Afzal, member SECP committee. Sorry.
Who passed away on 15th of April and departed to the next world.
Please. Please, Mr. Umar Mustafa Ansari, if you can please present the memento to Mr. Suleiman Afzal. Is he here? Mr. Moed Hassan, Deputy Director, Securities and Exchange Commission, for ensuring our logistics have been taken care of, among other things. Malik Asif Karim Awan, Assistant Director, Securities and Exchange Commission. Can I please request His Excellency Mr. Aqib Saeed to please present the next awards, the next mementos. Mr. Tokir Ahmed Sipra, Mr. Tosifur Rahman. Can I request Brother Taha to please join us on the stage as well? The person who has made sure that everything in the room has to be, is near perfect. Can I request Abdul Rahman Rai Saab to please present the memento to Taha? And can I request Mr. Mushtaba Lodi to please present an award to Tariq Naseem Saab himself? Okay, perhaps the last one is. Brother Umar, have you joined us? Perhaps the last one needs a lot of clapping and a lot of applause from your side, and that is perhaps myself. No, he's got it. Is there anyone from the Aaoifi, from the Secretariat team who has not received the award? Please don't blame me afterwards. I mean, I hope that I've done justice. Okay. The ladies is Dr. Iram Sabah. I mean, who can do better than that? Oh, of course. I mean, this conference would not have been possible without the support of, everyone who is here. The secretariat teams, the ushers who have joined us, the event management committee, the ladies here, thank you very much. Thanks to Bilal Rasool Saab. I actually almost slipped. It slipped my mind, but thank you very much for the support that you provided throughout the day. I'm joined by my colleague, Ms. Marjan. She's a consultant at Aaoifi who has done a tremendous work for us. So maybe perhaps a round of applause for all these ladies, and in fact, all the ladies in the room. So with that, I would like to thank you, everyone, for being with us. It's been a pleasant day. I hope you'll agree, and inshallah, we hope that your support to the development of Islamic capital market continues for the years to follow, and hopefully the discussions that we had here today would inshallah lead us to something fruitful. I'm sorry, I've missed out Miss Amna Aziz, I'm told. So please join me. And she's representative of the women empowerment here, so I'm so sorry for that. This is perhaps bad on my part. My apologies. May I ask once more, is there anyone else left in the room who has not received an award or a memento? So maybe last but not least, may I ask, Dr. Iram Sabah, Mr. Farhan Al-Usmani, Mr. Muhammad Shoaib Saab, please join us on the stage for a very quick last photograph of the day, and inshallah, I'll not take any more time for the day. Mr. Muhammad Shoaib Ibrahim Saab, please join us. This is perhaps the committee. Maybe perhaps we can have two. Can also request Mr. Amir Musa, please join me on the stage. Brother Farhan Noor, I can't see you in the room, so can you please join me on the stage? Farooq Raza, Mr. Farooq Raza, please join us on the stage. Mr. Guzan Bey, Mr. Ahmed Bey, please join us. Muhammad Bey, please join us. Brother Sharik Nisar, please join us. You are a committee member. Which Faraz? Dr. Asmadi. Prof. Dr. Asmadi, please join us on the stage. Mr. Abdullah Hidayat, are you around? Please join us on the stage. Brother Faraz, please join us. Brother Zahir, please. And I'll make some room. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We close the inaugural Islamic Capital Market Conference organized by Aaoifi and Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. Thank you very much for your attendance.